Welcome to another episode of Talking Trade. I'm Ken Wasylik, Managing Director of EM Wasylik and Associates, an international business development company.
And I'm Sandi Siegel, President of ME Day. I welcome our guest today, Susan Meyer. Want to give a little bit of an intro and background on Susan because really interesting background and experience and very relevant to our Talking Trade listeners. Susan is a partner at UB Greensfelder in Chicago and serves as outside general counsel, strategic legal advisor to businesses on really quite a wide range of industries. In particular, you work a lot in IPR, I see, Susan, which again comes up a lot in trade and so forth, copyright issues, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Your clients span everywhere from manufacturing, technology, defense, retail, food, entertainment, the whole shebang, as they say. So again, very relevant to our listeners. As I understand, you get involved in your practice in counseling and long-term strategies, but in particular also in licensing and dispute resolution in regards to working with U.S. and Scandinavian trade and helping customers navigate issues regarding IPR issues and so forth, trademark and things in that area. In addition, Susan is connected to the Royal Norwegian Honorary Consul, or is the Honorary Consul for both Illinois and Wisconsin. So thank you for that, Susan. And again, a great connection for our listeners. Welcome to Talking Trade and excited to learn more about your work, between the US and Scandinavia. And I think in particular, you do a lot of work with Norway and the United States. So very interested to learn more about that today.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for that kind introduction. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here. Allow me to start on behalf of the Royal Norwegian Honorary Consulate for Wisconsin and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs by sending warm wishes to the people and businesses of Wisconsin. As you may know, the ties between our two countries are long-standing, and the bonds between Norwegians and Americans especially remain strong. The U.S. is Norway's largest single-country trading partner, and during these challenging times, which we're going to talk about a little bit, I look forward to the future collaboration and opportunities between our countries. I understand from you that your audience is not limited to Wisconsin. And of course, a lot of the other Nordic countries are very similarly situated with Norway. So for our discussion, I'll refer to the Nordics and the Midwest.
Terrific.
Sounds good. So, Sandi, you talked about the Midwest region and particularly cross-border collaboration you were just talking about and how Midwest and the Nordics are very close. So could you expound on what's the good fit here? I used to work for a Finnish company. There's a lot of Nordic, there's a lot of Scandinavians in this part of the world. I mean, where's the fit and where's those strong potential partnerships?
Well, simply put, there are a lot of people in the Midwest with Nordic heritage, sensibilities, values, and strong work ethic. We already know each other. So now is the time to leverage those cultural connections to drive strategic growth. Wisconsin, for instance, has a lot of manufacturing, skilled labor, logistics, of course, as well as being centrally located. Well, Nordic technology, automation, and capital can complement and support local manufacturing facilities. In this current climate of America-made, either requirements or requests, these can be accommodated with end-stage manufacturing and regional assembly in the Midwest. So remember that the states, counties, cities all offer robust economic incentives for foreign companies to locate to the Midwest. So Nordic companies, given the right introduction, can use those incentives to pair up with local businesses, and they can both thrive.
Mm-hmm. What about going the other way? U.S. businesses, where's the opportunities in the Nordics?
Well, so that's a great question. Again, a lot of the Nordic countries are doing a lot of innovation. They are funding innovation, they are funding research, and they are very interested in exporting and very interested in that cross-border collaboration. So a lot of and it's kind of interesting to me because the Nordics, I'll focus on Norway in particular, they don't define exports or imports as only being manufacturing or hard goods. They also include culture. They include entertainment. They include all sorts of things. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, I think, for partnering between the US and the Nordics.
Yeah, and interesting. And we've talked about that in some of the soft goods and things that, people don't always think about when you talk about trade and dollars and trade deficits and things like
Yeah.
that. I want to revisit kind of the Midwest focus, if you will.
Right.
Anything in particular here in the Midwest that really makes that strong connection, commodities? Is it the culture, similar cultures, or anything, any, you know, magnet that really connects the Midwest to that
Oh,
area?
well, I think absolutely. I think you said it. I mean, there is a strong heritage here. I mean, there's a strong Norwegian community in Wisconsin, in Illinois. There's Swedes, there's Danes, there are Icelandic folks as well as Finnish folks, as you well know. And so a lot of these Nordic countries, folks that emigrated to America, they stopped in New York and then they came to the Midwest. So I would also include Minneapolis. I would include sort of the entire Midwest. I think because a lot of the area here looked a little bit like parts of Norway. If you go to
Sure.
Minneapolis, if you go to places in Wisconsin, it feels very familiar in terms of the location and the topography and the geography. And so consequently, there are a lot of strong Nordic connections and heritage ties here. Of course, as I said, a lot of the things that are strong in the Midwest, from technology, from innovation, from healthcare, from all of the things that World Business Chicago, for instance, assists with, or the Wisconsin trade industries assist with, they pair up beautifully with a lot of the Nordic countries because we're all trying to innovate, right? We're all trying to make things better for our
Mhm.
world, support our people.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, and let's not forget our similarity in weather, and giving
Absolutely.
that tough stock to deal with the temperatures. But seriously, so part of your specialty, which always intrigues me, and things that we touch on from time to time, is intellectual property. And obviously, we all talk about that a lot in dealing with Asia and trading with Asia. But it's not just Asia, right? And I think customers can really underestimate the importance of addressing that, right, when they're trading overseas and protecting their brand and so forth. So talk to us, a little bit on how the things that you see that come across your practice and how we differ, here in the US versus how they might approach this overseas.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to answer one of my favorite questions.
Okay, well, great.
Any company, this is one of my favorites because it's fraught with pitfalls, right?
Yes.
Any company that is even thinking about expanding beyond its borders, as in the borders of the walls of its building, needs to protect its intellectual property everywhere. This includes where it's going to operate, where it's going to sell or source goods and components from. This is so important. There are many aspects of intellectual property, from copyright, trademark, trade dress, patents, designs. All of these elements make up part of one's intellectual property. The US is a common law country. So here I'll start with trademarks. They begin when one starts to use it, as long as one is not infringing on somebody else's mark.
Mhm.
Most of the rest of the world recognizes trademark rights when an application is on file at the trademark office. So that's a big difference in how one goes about expanding their business. I have had clients expand to foreign lands only to find out they can't use their house mark. They can't use their main
Mhm.
trademark there because they didn't protect it and somebody else got there first. Patent rules
I
related
have
to,
not heard that before.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
I said I had not heard the timing
Oh,
of the application versus approval, and that's very
Well,
interesting.
Susan, that's the first to file versus first to use, right?
correct.
And
First
I
to
thought
use in the
that
United States.
I, I thought the U.S. changed that some
You're
years back.
thinking patents. I think you might be thinking patents.
So okay.
These are the nuances that are part of the intellectual property landscape. So important to get them right. Yes, that was a good call, and I thank you for raising that. So patent rules. So the answer to your question about not protecting overseas, there was a company in Australia, a single retail location, and I won't tell you the industry because it would be obvious, but they took every one of the major brands, major US brands in that industry and named a different department for each one, meaning they were able to prove they had actual use in one location in Australia, and they boxed out an entire category of US marks by using other people's trademarks and registering them first and having use. So that's just a lesson on how to make sure that if you think you're going somewhere, consult with somebody right early on. I do want to address patents because this is also very crucial. There are differing due dates and differing bar dates in the US versus the rest of the world. So where industrial designs are protected in the EU, we don't recognize those here in the United States. We do have design patents. They're not enforced in the same way. Copyright is recognized by treaty holders, but the practical reality is US judges are typically not well versed in foreign intellectual property rights. So it's very prudent to get a US copyright registration if one wants to enforce one's rights here. All of this is to say, please, please find good counsel to assist you in the process of conducting an intellectual property audit, see what you have, fill in the gaps with strategic new applications. Two other quick topics. Privacy is another huge difference. Europe considers the right to privacy a fundamental right, much the way we embrace our First Amendment rights to free speech here. This is why Europe leads the world in privacy policies. It is crucial for any companies that are interacting with Europe, even by email, by voicemail, by correspondence, to understand these concepts and tailor their policies and their actions to comply. Speaking of compliance, in the US, oh my goodness, we have so many layers to follow. In Europe and the Nordics, there are layers, but they're different. So for instance, in hiring, it is very difficult to terminate someone's employment in Europe. Whereas in the US, you've probably heard most companies have at-will relationships with their employees. So again, there are a lot of resources available, but please be sure to vet them carefully. Artificial intelligence is clever. It's not always correct.
Yeah, one question I was going to ask you, Susan. Okay,
Sure.
Norway is not part of the EU, but very close with the EU. Is there any significant differences between what the European community does, the European Union, and Norway?
Sure. So Norway has the benefits of being part of the economic aspects of the European Union without adopting, for instance, the euro, without requiring that the European fishermen, for instance, have full access to all of Norway's fisheries and opportunities for those kinds of things. So the complete overlapping of trade between Norway and the EU is not exact, but Norway has a seat at the table, and Norway plays a strong role and is able to have conversations about those kinds of things. Yes.
Okay. So besides being a accomplished lawyer and honorary consul general from Norway, you also are on the board of the Women's Entrepreneurials Group Grow
Global.
Global.
It's a mouthful. Women Entrepreneurs Grow Global. We call it WAG.
WAG. Okay, we'll call it WAG. Okay, and supporting women entrepreneurs. And Sandy's an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur, so we really resonate with the entrepreneurial community. So, what advice are you giving these women when they venture outside of their home territories when they go global?
Again, thank you. Another one of my favorite topic, helping women-owned businesses grow and thrive. I want to say a special shout out to Laurel Delaney, who founded WEG, and I know she's a friend of the Wisconsin business organization and trade organizations across many states in the area.
Right.
This organization, WEG, it's near and dear to my heart. It embodies this team approach, and I can talk about that in the Team Norway concept a little bit separately, but the idea is that you bring together industry leaders, business owners, supporting experts. I serve as an intellectual property advisor to WEG, as well as being on the board. This creates a valuable ecosystem of support, inspiration, and expertise, in WEG's case, to help women grow their businesses. But the advice that I would give to all business owners, because you're not necessarily part of WEG, is no matter what stage you're in, activate your network. Ask for help. Use the resources that are readily available. Each one of us on each of these boards and each business owner has a network of people that have been important to us along our journey. And I think the task before each of us is to tap into that network, make those connections, ask those questions, get that motivation, and help each other thrive.
Yeah, that's a really good point there, Susan. We're the facilitators for the Export Tech program here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And probably the last thing we always say, don't do it alone, right? Do it with your network. Rely on other experts. You're not a master of every subject, so seek out those masters and other mentors and support staff and other colleagues to actually do that.
Exactly right.
Susan, we're unfortunately running out of time, but thank you for the many, many ways you support the Wisconsin community, Illinois, and your clients across the country. Again, fascinating to hear about all the work you're doing and educate us all a little bit more on IPR and issues of that matter. Again, look forward to having you back on Talking Trade.
I'd be delighted to return. Thank you very much. And I look forward to being more present in the Wisconsin business community as
I hope so. I look forward to seeing you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you all very much.
You've been listening to Talking Trade with Sandi Siegel and Ken Wasylik, sponsored by the Wisconsin Center for Manufacturing and Productivity, Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin, Carroll University, and Michael Best Strategies.